friends, my name is KitaDollx and welcome to my channel. Today, I'm going to be switching things up a little bit. I have a battle royale of sorts, pitting fish ponds, solar panels, bee houses, and everybody's favorite, mushroom logs, against each other. I want to see just how well the fish pond and some of the other outdoor farm items stack up against each other. We'll take a look at some of the numbers and try to see just how good each of these can be and which one comes out on top financially, aesthetically, and for simplicity. Can you guess which one will win? If you find this video interesting, please like and subscribe for more like this in the future. With that being said, let's get into it. Life as the only farmer in Stardew can be challenging. When deciding what to put on your farm, it's not always cut and dry what makes the best money, makes your farm look nice, or just be a hassle to harvest and maintain. I really like the fish ponds for their aesthetic. They also slot in nicely in the same 5x5 space that crops with iridium sprinklers would use, so I often move in this direction as my crops migrate to the greenhouse or the Ginger Island farm. The fish ponds never felt super productive though, and I mainly just keep them around for some of the exotic watercolors you get from particular fish. So how do they stack up to some of the alternatives? Let's bring in the scientists and have them crunch some numbers to find out. First things first, let's set out some ground rules for this experiment. Rule number 1, I only want to compare things that have to be outdoors. Anything that can go inside is probably better in farm buildings anyway. 2, I'm going to limit this space to a 5x5 area. I know it's not ideal for everything, and some of these scale better with certain setups, but we've got to set some limits. 3, I'm allowing processing equipment to be factored in without using up the 25 available tiles. Kind of like Rule 1, it's really easy to have a lot of indoor space to set up additional equipment. We will keep this in mind though, especially if it really affects the work involved in processing the products. And 4, I'm going to assume that we have the artisan profession. I think most people go that route anyway. I'll also assume that we have the angler and gemologist professions. Those two really only have an effect for lava eels, but it's not a game changer in this context, so if you haven't taken them, the numbers won't be that far off. For the competitors, I will try to get the most out of them as possible, but I'll hash out some consolations if things start looking ridiculous in terms of processing. Let's start out with the fish pond. The fish pond can be home to a variety of fish, each with different produce, pond quests, difficulty, and maybe watercolor. For this comparison, I have to go with lava eels. They edge out blobfish for the best fish pond for money, they get cool red water, and they're obtainable pretty reasonably in year 1 if you put in some time into your fishing skill and make it to floor 100 on the mines. Once you fill up your pond with 10 lava eels, they can produce roe, gold ore, cave jelly, spicy eel food, and magma geodes. In addition, lava eels reproduce once every 5 days, so you can also fish out and sell a lava eel from the pond for some extra gold. All told, selling everything outright will net about 680 gold per day on average. The roe can be aged in preserves jars, the geodes can be cracked for additional profits using the geode crusher, and you can smoke the lava eel in a fish smoker. If you don't have gemologist or a geode crusher, taking them to Clint will result in a net loss on average, so you can just sell them outright. Once these processing steps are accounted for, the average gold per day gets bumped up to 1,704. Okay, not terrible. There is one other secret weapon for the fish pond though. In patch 1.6, golden animal crackers were released. When thrown in a fish pond, they permanently double the output. Doubling all of the items other than the lava eel spawned from reproduction brings the average up to 2,820 gold per day. But is this good? Next, let's look at solar panels. This one should be pretty straightforward. Solar panels can be crafted using 10 refined quartz, 5 iron bars, and 5 gold bars. No door-to-door salesman needed. These generate a battery pack after 7 sunny days. Not every day is going to be sunny on the farm though. To keep things simple, we're going to give these guys the benefit of the doubt and optimistically assume that they average out to roughly 1 battery pack every 8 days. We can cram 22 of 25 tiles with solar panels while still being able to harvest the batteries, so there's not too much wasted space. This would get us 308 battery packs per year. Hopefully, that's enough to have a few left over after fulfilling all the requests from the ladies in Pelican Town. Anyway, at 500 gold per battery pack, we would be making an average of 1,375 gold per day. There's no other processing for the batteries, so unless you need them for your crystallarium business, that's that. It gets beat out by a non-boosted lava eel pond, and on top of that, the solar panels are not cheap to make, and you won't be getting the recipe until after unlocking Ginger Island. With the animal cracker, the fish pond wins handily, and I think it's got aesthetics in the bag as well. All right, next up, bee houses. Are you at beekeeping age? This is for you. The bee house is a piece of artisan equipment that makes honey every 4 days. It's craftable at level 3 farming and requires 40 wood, 8 coal, 1 iron bar, and 1 maple syrup. This makes the bee house available very early. Honey sells for 140 gold and can be boosted up to 532 gold in the summer with nearby poppy flower, or 952 gold in the fall with a fairy rose flower. It's probably not worth bothering with flowers in the spring, since honey can be processed into mead in a keg. In update 1.6, the base price of mead was increased from 200 to 300 gold, so the artisan bonus bumps up to 420 gold. You can then further increase the value to 840 gold by aging it in a cask for 28 days. Of course, then you need the third house upgrade and a cellar full of casks and nothing better to put in the casks. However, if you are willing to devote casks to your mead, you can actually skip the flowers altogether and go with a similar setup to the solar panels, since you can fit a couple more bee houses in place of the flower and sprinkler. Keep in mind, this will not necessarily be the case for a bee house that can extend beyond a 5x5 square. And there are some really cool designs out there for bee houses with optimally placed flowers. Committing to casking all of your mead also seems like a big ask, since even our 5x5 square is enough to keep a cellar full of casks busy for most of the year. So let's take a look at some of the numbers with and without. Alright, so if we factor in the lack of production during winter, we can get 20 honey harvests per year, with an average of 2,025 gold per day by making mead in the spring, making poppy honey in the summer, and making fairy rose honey in the fall. If we go all out with the casks, we can get 3,300 gold per day throughout the year. To be honest, the whole cask route seems like a stretch when there's a lot better uses for the casks. This means bee houses are pretty comparable to a fish pond, with the winner depending on your golden animal cracker situation. It's kind of a judgment call, and it might depend on which one fits your aesthetic better. Okay, last but not least, everybody's favorite, let's take a look at trees and mushroom logs. For this one, we'll need some trees, some tappers, and some mushroom logs. As of update 1.6, the tappers and mushroom logs are both craftable items that you can get fairly early in the game at level 4 foraging. You'll need 40 wood and 2 copper bars for each tapper, and 10 hardwood and 10 moss for each mushroom log. The quantity and quality of mushroom logs is kinda complicated, but for a 5x5 area, it looks like 6 trees may be optimal for making sure each log sees 4 to 6 of the trees for calculating mushroom quantity. If you'd like to dig deeper into the mushroom log math and why it works out this way, please check out my other videos on mushroom logs. This setup will give us 6 tapped trees that produce syrup, tar, or resin, depending on the type of tree, and 16 mushroom logs that can produce a mushroom every 4 days or every 3 days with rain. Rain complicates the calculations, so we're gonna assume that we get mushrooms every 4 days as a worst case scenario. Anyway, once we have our mushrooms, we can throw them in our dehydrator to increase their sell price further. The type of tree does affect the type of mushrooms produced, so this is important for more than just what comes out of the tapper. Mystic trees are by far the best choice for money, since they make mystic syrup worth 1,000 gold each, as well as boosting the odds for purple mushrooms, the most expensive type that you can get from the mushroom log. That's kind of a tall order since you have to have reached foraging mastery, so we'll also compare this to pine trees, which is pretty much the easiest tree to get and the runner-up for best daily revenue. With pine trees in this configuration, we're gonna get a pretty measly 120 gold per day from standard tappers, but the mushroom logs crank out a total of almost 3,800 gold per day once the mushrooms make it through the dehydrators. Upgrading to Mystic Trees increases standard tapper products to 857 gold per day, with mushroom logs bumping up the total to almost 6,200 gold per day on average. It almost seemed too good to be true to the alternatives, so I tested the profits out for a couple mushroom log harvests, and everything seemed to be in line with the calculations, with actual revenue for the first 8 days at 5,696 gold per day. These are some pretty impressive numbers, and they blow the fish pond out of the water. It seems like mushroom logs are the clear winner for money, but the other three are somewhat similar if you don't go too crazy. They each have certain aesthetic appeals depending on the situation, but I think I like the look of colorful fish ponds on the farm the best, though I think trees, mushroom logs, and bee houses can all fit in pretty well. In all fairness to the fish pond, all three of these options can be placed outside of the farm and they aren't confined to a 5x5 area, so maybe that makes the decision easier in the end. Since the desert is always sunny and doesn't have much else going on, it's probably the best place to put solar panels out anyway, assuming you don't mind making the trip to collect your batteries. So, what do you guys think? Which of these do you like for your farm the most? Is the money the most important aspect, or did I miss something about any of these that you think makes them special? Let me know in the comments which ones you like best and how you set them up. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything new, please give it a like and subscribe, or come say hello to me over on Twitch. Until next time, goodbye!